You have probably seen the posts. They are all over Facebook and YouTube right now. A new federal law forces every senior over 70 to take an annual driving test or lose their license. The DMV is coming for older drivers this year. If you are over 65, your driving days are numbered. These posts are shared millions of times, and they are genuinely frightening people. Frightening them so badly that some are quietly deciding to stop driving, to give up the keys, to surrender the one thing that keeps them independent, all because of something they read online. So let me say this as clearly and as directly as I possibly can right at the top, because you deserve to stop worrying about the wrong thing. That law does not exist. There is no new federal law forcing seniors to retake their driving test. There never was, and as I'm going to show you, there almost certainly never could be. But, and this is why you need to stay with me, while everyone is panicking about a rule that is completely made up, there is a real rule quietly on the books in a growing number of states that can trigger a review of your license without you doing anything at all. Sometimes without you even knowing it started, and almost nobody is talking about it. So today, I'm going to do 3 things. I'm going to put the fake law to rest for good, so you can stop losing sleep over it. I'm going to tell you the real changes happening this year, including some that are genuinely good news that nobody is reporting. And I'm going to explain the one quiet rule that can actually put your license under review and exactly how to stay ahead of it. Get a pen, because the difference between being blindsided and being prepared comes down to one thing you can check this week. Here's what I am going to walk you through in order. First, the truth about the viral fake law, and the simple reason it cannot be real, so you can scroll right past it from now on. Second, the real changes happening in 2026, including 2 pieces of genuinely good news for older drivers that almost no one is reporting. Third, the quiet rule, the one that can trigger a review of your license without you starting anything, and who it affects. And fourth, exactly what to check and what to ask so that you are never caught off guard. Stay with me through the third part especially, because that is the real thing, the one worth your attention, hiding underneath all the fake noise. My name is Reed Banks, and I work as a federal tax specialist. Most of my work is with retirees, on the federal rules and the everyday rules that quietly shape your life and your money. And I am covering this one because, honestly, I have watched good, careful people get so scared by these viral posts that they made real decisions, like giving up driving, based on something that was never true. I am not here to panic you. I am here to give you the straight picture, calmly, so you know exactly what is real, what is not, and what to actually do. So let us put the fake law to rest first, because it deserves a direct answer. The claim is that the federal government passed a law requiring all drivers over 70 to take mandatory annual road tests or face automatic loss of their license. That is false. Flatly, completely false. And here is the simple reason it cannot be real. The thing that lets you dismiss every version of this post forever. In the United States, driver licensing has always been handled by the individual states, not by the federal government. Washington does not issue your license, does not renew your license, and does not revoke your license. It never has. Your driver's license comes from your state and only your state. So a federal law forcing a nationwide senior driving test would not just be new, it would go against the way licensing has worked in this country for its entire history. Every version of this story claiming a new federal rule for 2026 has been checked and debunked by legal sources, by highway safety organizations, and by state motor vehicle agencies themselves. So the next time you see that post, you do not need to share it in a panic. You do not need to call your kids worried. You can simply scroll past it. It is not real. Now here is the important turn, because this is where the truth actually matters. While there is no fake federal law, real changes are happening at the state level. And here is what nobody is telling you. Some of them are good news. Let me give you 2. First, one state just made life easier for hundreds of thousands of older drivers. A state that used to require every driver to pass a full road test once they reach their late 70s has raised that age dramatically into the late 80s, meaning a huge group of seniors who were dreading that road test at renewal no longer have to take it. They still do a vision check and pay the fee, but the road test that was hanging over them is gone for their age group. If you have been putting off your renewal because you were afraid of the driving test, the rule may have already changed in your favor, and you would never know unless you checked. Second, another large state quietly dropped the written knowledge test, the paper exam, for drivers 70 and older who have a clean record. People were still showing up to their appointments anxious about a written test they no longer had to take because nobody told them it was gone. So the real story is not that the government is cracking down on senior drivers. In several places, it is actually loosening up, and the people it helps are the last to hear about it. Now here is the quiet rule, the real one, the thing actually worth your attention. In a growing number of states, your doctor has a legal obligation, not a choice, a legal obligation to report certain medical conditions to the Motor Vehicle Agency. Let me say that again, because this is the part almost nobody knows. In some states, if you are newly diagnosed with certain conditions, your own doctor may be required by law to notify the DMV. And that notification can trigger a review of your driving privileges that you did not start and may not even know about until a letter arrives. The conditions that can trigger this vary by state, but they commonly include a new diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, epilepsy or seizure disorders, vision that falls below the legal driving standard, certain heart conditions, and severe untreated sleep disorders. Now, I want to be careful and calm here, because this is exactly the kind of thing that gets twisted into a scary headline, and I do not want to do that to you. A review is not an automatic suspension. In most cases, it simply means the Motor Vehicle Agency sends you a letter asking for additional testing or a medical evaluation. It is a process, not a punishment. But here's the part that actually matters, the part that turns a manageable situation into a real problem. If you ignore that letter, that is when you can actually lose your license. Not because of the diagnosis itself, but because you did not respond. So the danger is not the rule. The danger is being blindsided by it and not knowing what to do. Let me tell you about Walt, because Walt is who this whole video is for. Walt is 74, a retired tool and die maker from outside Erie, Pennsylvania. Walt saw the viral posts, the ones about the made-up federal law, and they got under his skin. He convinced himself that the government was about to make him take a hard annual driving test, that he would probably fail it the way the posts implied. And he started talking, half seriously, about just giving up his license before they could take it. His daughter heard him say it and got worried, because for Walt, that car was everything. His groceries, his church, his independence, his entire ability to live on his own terms. And the saddest part is that Walt was ready to give all of that up over a law that does not exist. When we actually looked at the rules for his state, two things became clear. The fake federal test was, of course, not real. But Pennsylvania is one of the states with medical reporting rules, which meant the thing actually worth Walt's attention was not some imaginary annual exam. It was simply knowing that if you were ever diagnosed with one of those conditions, he should ask his doctor directly about the reporting process, so he would never be caught off guard by a letter. Walt did not need to give up his keys. He needed accurate information. And once he had it, the fear that had nearly cost him his independence just dissolved. So here is exactly what to do, calmly and concretely. First, stop trusting Facebook and forwarded messages for this, and check your actual state's rules, because licensing rules are set state by state and they change. The cleanest way is to look up your own state's senior renewal requirements through a highway safety organization or your state's motor vehicle website. It takes about 5 minutes, and it tells you the real current rules for where you live, your renewal cycle, whether there is a vision test, whether there is any road or written test for your age, instead of what a friend told you or what was true 3 years ago. Second, if you or someone you care for has recently been diagnosed with any of the conditions I mentioned, dementia, a seizure disorder, a serious vision change, ask the doctor directly, are you required to report this to the Motor Vehicle Agency in our state? And what does that process look like? Asking in advance gives you time to respond properly instead of panicking over a letter. And third, if a letter ever does come asking for a medical evaluation or additional testing, do not ignore it and do not throw it away. Respond to it on time and follow the steps. The people who lose their license over this are almost always the ones who ignored the letter, not the ones who answered it. And let me add one quiet, compassionate note, because some of you are not worried about your own driving. You are worried about a parent or a spouse whose driving has genuinely changed and you do not know what to do. There is a path for that. Every state has a confidential process that lets a family member, a doctor, or law enforcement request a review of a specific driver. The driver is not told who asked. The motor vehicle agency does its own evaluation. This is not about snatching someone's keys out of cruelty. It is a formal, medical, fair process. And if you have been lying awake, worried about someone you love behind the wheel, that pathway exists in every state. And it may be the kindest, safest thing you can do for them and for everyone else on the road. So if you take one thing from this video, take this. The scary post you have seen 100 times, the one about a new federal law forcing seniors to retake the driving test, is fake. And you can let that fear go completely. Licensing is handled by your state, not Washington. And in several states, the rules for older drivers are actually getting easier, not harder. The thing that is real and worth knowing is that in some states, your doctor may be required to report certain new diagnoses, which can lead to a review. And the only way that turns into losing your license is if you ignore the letter. So you check your real state rules, you ask your doctor the direct question if it ever applies, and you respond to anything official that arrives. That is the whole picture, calmly and accurately, which is more than the viral posts will ever give you. Walt almost gave up his independence over a lie. You do not have to give up anything except the habit of believing scary posts without checking. If this helped you see the real picture clearly, do me one quick favor and hit the like button, because it genuinely helps push the truth in front of one more person who is being scared right now by something that is not even real. And here is what I would really encourage you to do. Subscribe and turn on notifications. And then actually make this channel part of your week, because I'm not here once in a blue moon. I put out new videos all the time, often several a week, each one cutting through the noise on the things that affect your money, your benefits, and your everyday life as a retiree. The scams, the rule changes, the Social Security and Medicare moves, and yes, the viral myths like this one, explained calmly and accurately, without the panic. The people who watch regularly simply stay better informed and harder to fool than everyone else, because they are getting the straight story early, before it turns into a problem. There is always something new here worth knowing, so come back often. And before you go, please do this one thing, because it could genuinely set someone's mind at ease. If you know an older driver, a parent, a spouse, a friend, who has been frightened by these viral posts about losing their license, send them this video. Tell them the federal law is fake, and tell them the one real thing to actually check. You might be the reason someone keeps the independence they were about to give away for no reason at all. This is Reed Banks. Drive safe, stay informed, and I will see you in the next one.